Welcome to episode 4 of the Tennis Underground, where we, as normal human beings that are obviously passionate tennis players, are going to be talking about some pretty controversial stuff, some pop culture stuff, and obviously this one is going to be one of the more recent news, not only in the tennis world, but also internationally and politically, given the things that are happening around in other parts of the world besides North America. How are you doing today, Brian?
Not bad, not bad. Of course, the weather dropped from 80 degrees on Saturday and Sunday to, God help us, 40 today.
Oh, and you're coaching tennis outside for boys high school now, so you're a busy guy. Well, thank you for coming. And no sponsor today, no beer sponsor at all, but we'll survive on that one. Also, if you guys haven't noticed, we are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the major streaming platforms on audio. The video, which is in 4K. Along with this high quality type of content is also on YouTube. And I am also now on Twitch, believe it or not, on top of streaming on YouTube. I'm streaming both on Twitch and YouTube, separate sessions, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday evening. So if you guys haven't already, do me a favor, check out my YouTube page, check out my Twitch, which is Mark_Sansait, SANSAIT. And if you guys have any questions about any of the topics we have here, hop on my YouTube or my Twitch, and then let's hang out. So, Brian, what are we going to talk about today?
It looks like today we're talking about the UK ban of Russian and Belarusian players. Which
is a little bit interesting because, in my opinion, there's always been some sort of intertwining between, this is my personal opinion. Okay, so you guys feel free to roast me in the comments or whatever, and you feel free to disagree with me too if you want. I actually encourage it. That's why I have guests on the show, you being the only one so far. There's always going to be intercoupling of politics and sports, specifically not just the sports teams, but in this case, athletes. Obviously, I'm pretty outspoken about what Novak Djokovic has kind of decided. And I don't hate the guy. I think he's a fool, given some of his stances with the worldwide pandemic. But at the end of the day, he's a human being. So one thing I never understood, whether it's LeBron James, Michael Jordan, I never understood why any normal, rational human being in the developing or industrialized world would ever look up to an athlete when it comes to politics. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're somewhat smart people. They have to be very disciplined. They're very, very talented. But I never understood the intermingling of politics and sports. Mm-hmm. What are your philosophies on that?
Politics and sports are separate issues.
Okay, so you agree?
Yeah, no, they should never be involved in one another. Right. Unfortunately, in this case, we've run into the full spectrum of politics getting directly into the country's probably most prominent tournament. Yeah,
for most people, the most prestigious and most coveted of the Grand Slams, the biggest events in professional tennis. And as you said, spectrum. Let's talk about organizations on the spectrum, specifically the Lawn Tennis Association and their ban of Russian and Belarusian players, not only for Wimbledon 2022, but also all grass court tournaments in the United Kingdom, which is 3 countries: England, Wales, Scotland.
Correct.
Did I get it right?
I believe you got it right first try.
And Americans actually aren't too familiar with that. I'm like one of the few Americans, you and I, that know that there's a difference between the UK and Britain. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's 3 countries. Obviously, the silver lining, in my opinion, is it's by far the shortest surface per season on a regular circuit. But this is extremely controversial. This actually might be more controversial than Novak Djokovic's stances with a worldwide pandemic. No, I mean, it's more polarizing, let's say.
Yeah. I feel like I think your crowd of people that watch your podcast and stuff now are wondering if you're going to, switch the memes from Djokovic to UK like grass politics.
In case you haven't noticed too, I have a shit posting account on Instagram called Toxic Tennis Memes. So I'll leave a link to that in the description below. But that's going to be hard because the LTA is an organization or the All England Lawn Club, or whatever you want to call it, who actually runs Wimbledon, they're an organization. Djokovic is a face, which is a lot easier to make memes on. So going through this BBC article, I believe BBC stands for British Broadcasting Company. Mm-hmm. I'm used to seeing BBC in different contexts and different acronym in some of the other websites I go to when in incognito mode, but more on that later. Do you understand that joke? Never mind. And I think we agree here. Even though we agree on a lot of stuff, you and I are not like a perfect match when it comes to philosophies and virtues, right? And I love you to death for that. Don't ever change. But this is one thing I think we can really agree on that is incredibly, I wouldn't call it racist, because your nationality, I mean, there's a correlation between nationality and race. But this is pure discrimination by any and all accounts. I haven't seen, while I'm alive, and I just turned 32 on April 23rd of this year, I haven't seen a sporting discrimination this black and white. No pun intended.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't think I can recall a time in U.S. History of sports where they've gone after a full, spectrum of people. It's usually, we always have the one-off ban. Think about like the Pete Rose kind of aspect of stuff.
Was that baseball?
That was baseball.
Okay.
I feel like there was a guy in football that I can't remember. The guy we were just talking about a couple days ago in tennis, Daniel.
Creeks.
Yeah. So like just the one-off bans of players, but never a full-bodied community.
It's really sad, because I would say that 99.9% of people in the U.S. have, and I got to be careful how I say this because this is not a political podcast talk, but from what I've seen in my audience and all my friends, and even just channels of media, whether it's left-leaning, right-leaning, or neutral, I don't think I've ever seen a non-pro-Ukrainian outspoken message on any type of forum. I've never seen anything about any individual supporting what the Russians have done when it comes to a military, not invasion, that's the wrong word, but a military move, let's say, trying to be as neutral as possible. It's pretty hard. So I would even argue that most professional Russian tennis players are either silent or for Ukraine. And I think Rublev did right on the camera when he won a victory. I believe it was Indian Wells. He said, "No war, please." I'm assuming that means, please don't declare war, instead of the Ukrainian people just flopping overside with belly up and letting them, come in and having them invade. So even the Russian tennis players, I'm assuming, are against this, and yet they are being punished, that Russians and Belarusians, which is, in my opinion, extremely unfortunate. Mm-hmm. I mean, Russia is a tennis powerhouse for both ATP and WTA, correct?
Currently, yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievably good.
Them in Spain?
Pretty much, yeah. Aren't they running? They're pretty much running it right now. Now that kind of Switzerland is declining with the age of Federer and Wawrinka.
Yeah, and Federer is probably going to retire this year, I think, unfortunately. I mean, yeah. I'm a huge Fed simp, but I think his time is done. I don't think he'll ever win a Grand Slam, even Wimbledon. So, I mean, I would honestly like, and be as open as you want. I will not criticize you. Leave a comment down in the section below if you guys actually think this is okay. So it's shocking, because like, back to the politics and being a professional athlete or professional gamer or even an actor in Hollywood, and we know where Hollywood leans 99% of the time. It's the reality of things. I feel very sorry. I have so much sympathy for the Russian and Belarusian professional tennis players, whether or not they support what Russia's doing, which I obviously do not agree with. But this shadow is casting a very, very slippery slope of what professional sporting organizations can do to an individual based on citizenship, based on political beliefs, based on online presence. and I hope this never, ever happens. Race, creed, sexuality, religion. That's a scary, scary thought. I'm not saying it's happening. I'm not going to put my tinfoil hats, but do you think that's ever going to be possible?
I'd hope, you obviously hope not.
Yeah.
Especially from our perspective, being Americans, you sit there and you look back at how our country is built and how we've kind of, gone about our existence as a country being free and open arms to anyone. So if it happened here where we ended up banning Russian players, I can't see it happening personally. But if it did, it would be really disappointing.
So speaking of precedent, and I'm not, again, this is not a conspiracy political type of talk, at least not yet. Maybe I'll make another channel for that. But okay, so this is from what we know happening, correct? You have your article in front of you. I mean, the people that are going to be most affected by this, the highest two ranking individuals that are affected by this ban to date is Daniel, the bullshit Russian Medvedev of Russia, who, number 2 in ATP as of this recording, and the women's number 4, Ariana Sabalenka, who I totally forgot was Belarusian. They're banned from this.
And then Andrei Rublev,
who's I believe top 10.
Yeah, and he just got done beating Djokovic in the Serbian Open.
That is in is it Belgrade or Belgrade?
I don't know. I'm not really familiar with the country, but he's hot right now.
Yeah.
So that really sucks.
And here's the thing: we could talk about the top 10, top 20 ranked ATP and WTA tennis players, right? Mm-hmm. One thing that this article and people don't really talk about too much is if you're in the top 20 of ATP or WTA, unless you have an online presence of social media and sponsorships like Camila Giorgi, who's like barely top 50 in the world, but makes more money than most top 20 women just because of her, let's say, online presence and looks and charisma. Imagine if you're a Russian tennis player on the ATP and you're number 55 and you actually qualified for the main draw in Wimbledon because you worked your ass off for it. And this happens. And keep in mind, if you're top 50 to top 200 in at least ATP, yeah, you're traveling the world. You're in amazing physical shape. You're traveling the world playing a sport that I'm assuming you don't hate, if not even love, but you're not making that good of a living after all expenses. I could bring it up later. We could talk about this in a later podcast, but I believe they did this thing with Noah Rubin, who was like number 50 in the world at one point when this little documentary came out. His sponsorships, his prize money, he was bringing in about $150K, which is a good living, but he was spending $130K on physios, equipment, flight, motels, hotels. Like, yes, I feel sorry for the top ranked Russian and Belarusian players, but I feel more sorry for the journey women that are affected by this ban.
Yeah, because I'm assuming the top of the top Belarusian and Russian players. I mean,
they're fine. They're going to be fine.
And I haven't heard any of like the endorsements or of any of them being cut because they're Russian.
That's also another scary slope, but also it's not too far out there.
Yeah.
Now back to what precedent that this might set. Right? I'm hoping the French Open doesn't do this. I'm hoping any tournament, ITF, Challenger, Futures, ATP will ever do this. But what are the chances that the French Open and the US Open would even consider this in a serious manner?
Definitely not the. I'm still not set on the U.S. Open ever doing anything down this line.
Is it a cultural thing, you think? where we're a little bit more outspoken on stuff like this, given our history?
That's the hard part I'm having with answering that question, is because you think about U.S. and English history without getting ridiculously political, but like you're talking 44 years of a Cold War that you had with Russia, and really the tension's not necessarily there, but now it's back.
Well,
like
now it's
that
back.
kind of aspect of stuff. So like from an Olympic standpoint, yeah, it could happen. I don't know if it could happen from a
put your mic in front of your mouth so it's there you go, like that when you talk.
Yeah, no, I'm just Olympic standpoint, yes, probably they're probably going to have some problems there where they're just going to say no dice to the Russian Olympic Committee or whatever. From the U.S. Open perspective, probably not. If there was a country that could follow suit, kind of like the way the UK did, Germany. Okay, I could like. What's the other grass court event? Is that the Hamburg Open in
Halle?
That's one in Germany, right?
That's German, I believe.
Yeah,
yes.
so I could kind of see them following suit, but then again, I don't. I know what I know about the European countries and their concern towards this
and scary. This is kind of weird because if you think about most pop culture stuff we talk about, whether it's tennis or everyday life, it's usually on American soil, or we have a little bit more expertise on it. So we're actually outsiders looking in because this is obviously a foreign country, even though we both speak English, but also it has something to do with world politics, which is extremely complicated. So yeah, obviously this, again, not a political podcast, but I'm really hoping that this ban gets overturned because it sets a very, very dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
It's like a shadow looming. Okay. So, I mean, this is a little bit extreme, but it's also kind of on the same part of, let's say, the spectrum. If there's a very controversial presidential election in the US, which let's just say Donald Trump was polarizing to say the least, right? I mean, if that ever happens again, whether it's Donald Trump for the next presidential nomination or the next presidency after this current administration has not been elected or is done, do you think that any sporting body in professional sports will say, you cannot come here if you voted for this person in this national election? Yeah, I see your eyes right now, and I'm going to put that as like a thing in the video, but that's not, I mean, it's a little bit far off, but it's still on the same vein.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Because initially, before this ban, the Lawn Tennis Association, the All England Club, in order for Medvedev to play, he would have to publicly denounce what Putin is doing, which obviously I believe what he's doing and his administration doing is not okay. Again, I'm not a politician, but why are you putting someone that's not a politician in the spotlight in order to do this, in order to play one of the most important tennis tournaments in the world, if not the most important tennis tournament in the world? So that's my food for thought.
Yeah. I mean, I guess on a semi-good note, like the WTA and the ATP have both kind of been like, I don't know if we follow this judgment as a whole.
And that's good. That's silver lining. And one of the things that I can't believe I'm saying this, I actually agree with Novak Djokovic. I would have never imagined there would be a day and age where I actually agree with Novak Djokovic about him saying that this isn't fair, this is discriminatory, in a non-trolling manner. Oh my God, me and Nole have found some common ground.
Everyone listening, at 8:52 p.m. Central Time, Mark stated that him and Djokovic are now on like terms. So please create memes and post to his Discord.
And Martina Navratilova, who is a 9-time Wimbledon singles champion, says it's not the way to go. It's a wrong decision. Tennis is such a democratic sport. It is difficult when you see politics destroy it. And I agree. Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. So the ones that are being affected by the ban are Sabalenka, Medvedev, world number 15, Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. Ooh, I actually said that right. And Andrei Rublev, as you said. Mm-hmm. So, any final thoughts on this?
No, not. It's very, very bizarre to me in general. I mean, we've gone about the aspect of banning or taking a political stance against oligarchs that fund the government, mm-hmm. and we've gone about the aspect from the U.S. government perspective of funding arms and stuff to Ukraine to help them with their war. Unless there's no straightforward, like Daniel Medvedev is huge Kremlin sponsor who's somehow out of his X amount of dollars playing X, Y, and Z tournament is funding their government. Like I don't see the purpose in this.
And at that point, you could say that you're funneling money, sporting event money, towards like a bad cause, or terrorism, if you want to go that far. But there's obviously no proof of that. I would never accuse of something like that to anyone unless I have substantial proof.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's good. What?
I guess I'm getting towards the kind of the end cases of the article that you posed for this podcast, and looking at some of the reaction based stuff, kind of from the ATP, and it looks like everyone is very correlated worldwide that the whole invasion aspect of Ukraine, no bueno. Even to the point where it looks like the ATP, for the consideration of Russian and Belarusian players, could still compete in opposing events under a neutral flag if they decided to go the route that the lawn or I've already forgotten English.
Lawn Tennis Association, All England Club. Two, those are the two ones.
That's a long one.
Yeah, exactly. At least we have the USTA.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Medvedev is a Russian Kremlin because in the famous wise words of Stefanos Tsitsipas, Medvedev is not a true Russian. In fact, he's quite bullshit. But we're going to wrap this up. But my final point is that there are some people that are supporting this ban, right? And I mean, it's obviously okay to differ from my standpoint, but I also want to understand why they think that way. And there's nothing wrong with it. Ukrainian world number 25, Elena Svitolina. Wow. Elena Svitolina, who recently married Gael Monfils this year, I think. Yeah. I mean, she's hovered in the top 20 for a while. So she's a touring pro. Disclaimer, she's Ukrainian. So you got to see it with in her eyes, through her lens. Elena Svitolina released a lengthy statement on Wednesday calling on tennis governing bodies to take harsher stances against Russian and Belarusian players. I highly disagree with this, but let's keep going. Svitolina has taken a break from the sport to deal with a back problem and the emotional impact the invasion has had on her. Okay, back problem and taking back for emotional mental health. Good. You should, right? I hope that any person with strong Ukrainian or even Russian or Belarusian ties has a mental health check, especially if they have family members or still connections that are currently in that part of the country. I have plenty of Ukrainian friends that it's affected them deeply emotionally. So everybody's human at the end of the day. She posted, are you where I'm at? Where I'm reading? Okay. She posted on social media urging the ATP, WTA, and ITF to ask Russian and Belarusian players if they supported the war. This is where I draw the line. I don't think this is a good idea because now you're getting to personal, you're filtering, you're trying to put people into categories that has nothing to do with tennis. the military activities in Ukraine or the regimes of Russian Belarusian players, Presidents Vladimir Putin and Alexander Lukashenko. They're asking where they stand. And that's a scary thought. She wrote, if applicable, we demand to exclude and ban any Russian and Belarusian athletes from competing in any events. Do you think she wrote this in a highly emotional standpoint?
Oh, obviously. I mean, anyone directly associated with Ukraine is going to act in this manner. I mean, looking just at the general news and stuff, I mean, Russia's destroyed that country.
There's tens of thousands of people have died.
Yeah, I mean,
which is hugely unfortunate.
If you want to draw any random historical correlation of what she's kind of saying, I mean, you can even go back to World War II aspect of stuff and what we kind of did with Japanese Americans during that period of time during the war situation.
So one thing they don't teach, in my opinion, enough in high school, I don't think it's middle school appropriate, but high school and even college, is during World War II, in the United States, we actually placed Japanese Americans in internment camps just because they were Japanese, which is not okay in any day or time in the history of the world, which is disgusting. And World War II is obviously extremely complicated, and there are war times, but that's, in my opinion, crossing the line. She also says, in times of crisis, silence means agreeing with what is happening, and I also disagree with that statement. Because I'm fairly silent on it, but obviously, when we talk at a restaurant or a bar, I'm never going to back down if someone asks me that. She also states that there comes a time when silence is betrayal, and that time is now. Pretty extreme. But again, she's Ukrainian, so that's the lens that she's typing this in. I don't think she personally should have typed it that aggressively, but it's the internet, and we're in the US, we have freedom of speech. So, I wish her the best. I just highly disagree with this statement. Am I shocked by this? No, not. But as I said, I see where she comes from. I'm wondering if she'll regret those, not regret, but if she thinks that releasing that was not necessarily a good idea, but should have been worded differently. I mean, we obviously know where she stands. I stand with her with Ukraine. I don't stand with how extreme she wants to take this ban. So yeah, Elena. Monfils is her last name. I don't know if she would change her last name because she's a saleswoman because she's an athlete. Any final thoughts before we close this one out?
No, I'm really just hoping in the end case of this isn't more bans for good tennis players because of their country affiliation.
Yeah.
So especially as we pass into the Roland Garros aspect of tennis, right now, I don't want to see that happen, and I really don't want to see any U.S. Banning of Russian players. I mean,
I really think if the French Open did this, or if the French Open didn't have any bans, the U.S. Open won't have any bans.
It's really what I'm hoping. And I even take this further, being I'm not only a tennis fan, but I really enjoy like the sport of hockey and stuff like that. And like,
you're a hockey guy?
The competitive aspect of keeping a global, like an open global policy towards all sports, especially from an American perspective, has always been awesome. I mean, we're a competitive country in general with how we play our sports, and that doesn't mean that we're the best. And you gotta bring that the groups from everywhere, whether Europe, Asia, Africa, and all that kind of stuff.
Don't forget Antarctica.
That penguin just whooped the crap out of me. Yeah. So just hoping and praying.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Again, this audio version of this podcast is on all major streaming platforms for you guys to enjoy. And if you guys want to see the video portion of this, it's on YouTube under Mark Sanset. And I do stream on both YouTube and Twitch on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. As always, guys, happy hitting.